his journey, his achievements, the challenges he faced, about his journey. आइए जानते हैं. मेरे साथ बहुत खास मेहमान है डॉक्टर फ्रैंक इस्लाम. यू आर FI इन्वेस्टमेंट थॉट लीडर, सिविक लीडर. बहुत बहुत स्वागत है मिस्टर इस्लाम आपका.
Yes, thank you very much for your time. I am Frank Islam.
So Frank Islam, when we talk about India, of course, I'm sure have a, it might be the center of your heart when we talk about your feelings, your connections with India. But your journey from Aligarh, Azamgarh, and then America would have been interesting one. Kindly share your words.
And challenging one.
Challenging as well.
Well, I love India. I was born in India, and I love the India's arts, cultures, and rituals. India is a global beacon of hope and democracy and diversity of the world. And that's the things that I'm going to talk about it in my speech in about an hour about the U.S.-India relationship. To answer your questions, and you have a very interesting and thoughtful questions, and thank you for asking the questions. So I was born in Azamgarh, and I have never lost love of Azamgarh. What's best in me, I owe it to Azamgarh. Its leaders have shaped our history, and my parents taught me something that I always cherish, nourish, and nurture: love of education, a passion, a commitment to education.
Absolutely.
If I have not gotten the education, if they did not infuse in me the love of education, I would never cross the Atlantic Ocean to realize the American dream. And I embody the American dream. So I went to Aligarh Muslim University, which is not, one of the professor, Wolfgang Throne, who was a professor at the University of Colorado in Boulder, came to Aligarh Muslim University as a visiting scholar, I believe, and he sort of told my parents that I want to take this kid to America. They said, take him. So here I am, 15 years old, left America, left India, as a matter of fact, and without any parental guidance. But I always wanted to get a good education. So I got my bachelor's degree and master's degree from University of Colorado in Boulder. That gave me the real world grounding. But I wanted to be a business person. You talk about entrepreneur. I wanted to be a business owner and make a difference in people's lives. So, but I needed the experience. So after I got my degree, I came to Washington D.C. area, and I worked for 2 information technology companies to get the experience and the real world grounding. And then after that, I became an entrepreneur. In 1994, I bought a company for $45,000. I mortgaged my house, and if you ever talk to my wife, she will say, I'm not sure why you want to do this. And my wife is an American, and I love her very much. But I did. That was the best investment that I ever made. That $45,000 yielded to several $100 million. So within 13 years, my management team and I were able to grow that company for 1 employee, that's me, to 4,000 employees and to $300 million in revenue. And then I sold the business in 2007 to Mr. Ross Perot. You probably heard of him. He ran for the President of the United States also against George H.W. Bush and President Clinton. And that gave me the financial independence. Then my wife and I started the foundation, Frank Islam and Debbie Dreisman Foundation, which focuses on education, which you mentioned, arts and culture, and civic engagement and world peace. And you can ask me about education, but the thing which I want to highlight about the importance of the arts and arts. Art, as President Kennedy says, nourishes the roots of our culture. Art transcends our boundary, and art represents the best of our humanity. And I'm also very civically engaged. I have Frank Islam Civic Engagement Institute, and also involved in a conflict resolution. I have given a several $1 million to U.S. Institute of Peace to make sure that we have a world which is a conflict-free. We should not look at the God in heaven, God that we worship. We look at the family that we are on this earth.
Absolutely.
And that's the reason I'm also interfaith dialogue, which allows us to build the bridges of understanding and cooperation, and also brings people together. The democracy and diversity, those are the 2 values that binds us together as an American Indian, and diversity brings us together. Diversity makes us stronger. And when we're stronger and together, we can help shape a better future for India.
We can change the world. So I would say from
you very well said.
We can change the world, absolutely. So you talk about from the world peace to education, to being an entrepreneur, to actually expanding and multiplying from being #1 to now thousands and thousands. So what made you coming back to India, to spend here in India, to get engaged more in India, because you were doing so well back then in America?
Well, I would say that I would have not crossed this ocean if I were not born to India. I love this country very much, and I want to give back. So I'm reminded and guided by the words of President John F. Kennedy. And I quoted Kennedy when I talk about the arts and culture. I sit on the board of the trustees of Kennedy Center for Performing Art, appointed by President Obama, who happens to be a good friend. So your question with regard to why I come back to India, and I come back every 2 years. I want to give back to this country because this country has been good to me. And I also want to give back in education, which is the most important part of it. So I came here about 3 years ago to inaugurate Frank and Debbie, my wife Debbie, Islam Management Complex at the Aligarh Muslim University. And that management complex have innovations and entrepreneurship center. And I hope we can create one day Silicon Valley between Aligarh and Delhi. Wouldn't that be nice?
Absolutely.
And we can create jobs, build employment, and make a difference. And especially the young people are the hope of tomorrow, the promise and potentials of, and possibilities of India and the world. So I did that, and I was a convocation speaker, and I gave the speech. And then after this year, I came to give another $500,000 to Aligarh Muslim University to build Frank and Debbie Islam auditorium at the School of Journalism, which is very important.
That's
you know,
amazing.
you're a journalist. And I believe, my wife and I believe in democracy, and also believe the freedom of press, which is, and they are the freedom of press, the cornerstone of the democracy of India, and for that matter, for the world. Unfortunately, I was not able to go there because of what happened at Aligarh Muslim University in terms of the unrest, and they were not able to secure me. So I will come back with my wife in October, and hopefully you'll interview her when she comes back to inaugurate the complex.
Absolutely.
On the topic of the freedom of press and the journalists, and you are a journalist, and you're a wonderful journalist, and thank you for all you do to make a difference, is we also sponsor through our foundation journalists that come from India to the United States. And we did that last year for Hindustan Times, and before that we did somebody from a DNA newspaper, which I think is in Gujarat. So, and the idea is that they get the Frank Islam and Debbie Dreisman, which is my wife's name, is the project, is the fellowship, so they can learn about America's character, conscious America's values, and promote their democratic values. Those are the values that binds us together from America and India.
So that means the values are binding together, as you rightly said. And of course, during the course of your answer, one more point thing that attracted me was the job opportunities. We need to talk about job creating more and more opportunities. But before that, talk about your organization. You know, what's the agenda? What's the purpose when we talk about the purpose? Because as before we started the program, you said that everybody has very limited time on this Mother Earth. So we have to get the maximum out of it. So when we talk about your organization, what's the agenda, the purpose of it, especially when we talk about the international, the global perspective, and especially about India?
Well, when I sold my business in 2007, I had the financial independence and cash, so that I wanted to deploy my own cash to establish Frank FI Investment Group. And the concept behind the FI Investment Group was to give money, seed money, the capital seed money, to the young business owners and entrepreneurs, so they can go out to create jobs and become another Frank Islam, which is what I want them to be, and embody the American dream or Indian dream. So, and that's the purpose of that. So I invested several $1 million in India to start new businesses. Unfortunately, I did not do very well personally because of the year 2007. At that time, you know, if you look at the Wall Street, they probably took a toll on it. And at that time, our economy was not doing very well. But now I do not invest as much, but what I do invest in education and invest in India and around the world. The four areas I mentioned: education, civic engagement, which is very important to be engaged civically, and also in the world peace and arts and culture. So I continue to invest in those areas, and that's important to me personally. We have to make a difference, and we need to be a difference maker, and that's the only way we can help shape a better future. And we have a short time in this planet of Earth, as we mentioned to you, and we have to make a difference.
So I think from your experience of the challenges you have faced, and you have learned so much, you are actually giving out to the generations to come. But you know, talking about a visit to Delhi, you have been recently, I would say recently, but back in 2015, you visited with your dear friend Barack Obama during the Republic Day 2015. Just share your experiences. How was that trip?
Well, I came. This was a wonderful experience, and flying with the President of the United States is a truly an honor and a privilege. And there's no traffic problems if you go on his car and all those things that they have. All the traffic is just stopped and so on and so forth. And so President Obama asked me to travel to India with him to in order for us to celebrate India's Republic Day. That's President Obama. India's Republic Day, which was and Prime Minister Modi was just a wonderful person. He embraced American president. The people of India embraced him, and I was privileged to be there. Then I also went to Rashtrapati Bhavan and had a dinner there. This is Prime Minister Modi also, so we met. So those are the good experience. But the thing which was attracted to me is how do we establish and promote the relationship in terms of the business relationship with India and the United States. And that's the topic of discussion that I have this evening when I give a speech on promoting U.S.-India relationship. It's close to $80 billion trade is. And by the year 2030, take my advice, we're going to have a $1 trillion U.S.-India trade relationship. And that's
that would be phenomenal.
And that's the Prime Minister, and that's Modi. So that was the purpose of that meeting was. Unfortunately, President Obama has to go. We had a dinner together the night before when he gave his speech next day. Then he has to fly to Saudi Arabia because King Abdullah passed away. But it was a great meeting. And you know, the thing which attracted to me most is the love and affection of the Indian people to the President of the United States. Undoubtedly. And he's a great person. He's a great orator. He's a very eloquent speaker and all of the above. But Indian people embraced him, and this is the value the Indian diaspora bring to India. And India diaspora have the capability, the capacity, the responsibility to help India achieve its fullest potential, not only in investment but also in education and employment, as well as U.S.-India relationship. There are many sectors that they can help, and which is what I do, which is what I want to do.
Absolutely, from education to art and culture to all the sectors that you're rightly.
You're absolutely, and healthcare is a very important.
So I think they all are connected. When you empower them, especially when you talk about the empowerment of mind and soul, I think once you're empowered mind and soul, you're empowered in the education sectors, then we can actually change the future for the generations to come.
Well, I think you have selected a very interesting topic, education. So let me say a couple of things about education and our co-president Obama also. If I would have not received the educations, I would have not crossed the Atlantic Ocean to go to America. I would like to say that America's inclusiveness and openness that provided me the ladders of opportunity to succeed. Those are the strengths and the values and qualities of America all of us can proudly and truly embrace. And this is the values that we need to instill and infuse in this nation to become inclusive, tolerant, as well as so we can build a fairer and stronger India. Education is the key ingredient of a success. Education empowers the mind and uplifts the soul. Education, President Obama, since you quoted, he said it will be the currency of the 21st century. Education is a bridge to the future, it's an opportunity creator. And it also gives you the, in addition to that, it builds the bridge for you to climb the ladders of success. And I say to the young people who are listening to me, get a good education, do not drop out of the college, because we need you, the world needs you, and God needs you.
Absolutely. So I've been so many entrepreneurs, so the young minds who might be listening to you, they do think that education is the basis. So now especially you've been Lord there when you back to Meghalaya as well, Varanasi and Meghalaya, you have some of the important projects there. You know, briefly just tell us about that as well.
Okay, so I went to Meghalaya, and the governor has given me the Doctor of Science degree, which was which was a great accomplishment. And the fellow who founded the university, University of Science and Technology in Meghalaya, I may not have pronounced it correctly. It was a great moment in my life. I was delighted and I was honored to be there. And that fellow who founded the university about 10 years ago, I think, is from Aligarh Muslim University. So there was a bond that binded us together. He's an educationist. I'm an educationist. He went to Aligarh. I went to Aligarh, so we bonded together. And I saw this young man, fellow, and I don't think he could be more than 50 years old. He established this and have this university, and he has given. It was a great experience. And then I went to Varanasi, and from Varanasi to Azamgarh. Now, one of the things I want to talk about the Azamgarh that I did not mention, purpose of my trip, to establish a Frank and Debbie Islam health clinic in the village that I was born in, Azamgarh. It looks like America. It's such a beautiful. It's a very small though, but I want people to get a good, not only good education but good health, because healthcare is in this country is for the privileged and the rich people, not for the poor people or the middle class. So I want them to get a good health and preventive health, and make sure that we can get a doctor over there who can take care of the people over there in the surrounding villages. And I also did one more thing, and that I'm very grateful to my mother. I established a girls' college. I do believe that education for the girls is a very, very important. This should not be confined to the four walls, especially the Indian Muslim girls. They should not be isolated. Their voices should not be ignored, and they have the capacity, I believe, to determine their own destiny if they go get good education. And there's more than 50% of the people in India are women. We need to exploit their fullest potential.
Absolutely.
So that they can achieve what they want to achieve. And they should look at Mrs. Gandhi, who was the Prime Minister, and they should look at the Pepsi Cola CEO Indira Nooyi, who's a personal friend, and many, many others who shaped India. And I want them to be one of them.
Absolutely, you know, so from health, I would say, to education, every sector in which we are working in. So before we wrap up the discussion, you know, you're talking about the girls, especially I would say the youth of today. They shouldn't be confined to the four walls. They have to look beyond the horizon. So they should be given more opportunities,
and venture into the new
more
horizon.
benefits, more opportunities, so that they can work across and can actually, you know, do good with their future.
Do well, but do good. So let me give some advice to the young budding Indians who are strong, who are vibrant, who are resilient, who are ready to capture the heart of the millions, who are dreamers and doers. They're both. And so I tell them to get a good education, as I talk to you about that, and also be the best you can be. And have knowingly, unknowingly, you're carving out your own journey. My journey was Frank Islam journey. Stephen Jobs' journey was a Stephen Jobs journey, and the job of Bill Gates was his journey. I also say do well, but do good. I also say help others to succeed when you are successful. I also tell them to make sure that make other people successful, because if they're successful, all of us will be successful, India will be successful, and the world will succeed. And I also tell them, create your own destiny and your own legacy. So those are the things that I have for the younger people. And you are the hope of tomorrow. I will say to the younger people, be the best you can be. You have the capacity to change the landscape of India. Absolutely.
To start coming from your mouth, sir, it matters the most, you know, as a mentor, as a guide.
Oh, it matters from you as well.
As an advisor, I would say, as you said, you know, not only education, in every walks of life, given an opportunity, we have to work better. So if we have a guide like you, of course, not only in India, we would say worldwide, we will leave our imprints. On that note, thank you so much for joining in, and all the very best for all your future endeavors. Keep visiting India, because India is beautiful.
India is beautiful. We want India to become more beautiful.
Absolutely.